Hello everyone, I'm Pauline, the founder of Tash, and I'm here today with Tash Ullah, who is also a coach. And Tash is going to share with you her experience of coaching with me. So thanks very much for being here today, Tash. And if you can start by just telling us what drew you to coaching in the first place.
So for me, I was learning to be a coach myself. And as part of that process, I really wanted to experience coaching as well. And I worked with a few people on some of the courses that I did and did a few bits here and there. But in all honesty, I hadn't really found someone that I felt like I really clicked with or who inspired me in the right way. And I think when I met you in particular, I really just felt very drawn to your energy, and I really felt like you were someone who was really living your truth in terms of practicing what you preach. And my experience was, and I'm sure a lot of people would have a similar experience, that it's quite easy to learn the motions of coaching and sort of what to say to other people, but then actually sort of applying it in your own life and really living by what you say can be quite a different matter. And I just really felt that you did that, and you just felt really authentic, and it just really drew me to you. And there's never been anyone else that I've actually been interested in getting coached by since. So yeah.
Thank you for that.
Pleasure.
And in terms of, understanding like tools and techniques, and you can intellectualize these things, how's that been for you in terms of, I know these things, but then how I experience them in life? We have a session and then you start to experience things. Can you share your knowledge and understanding of that?
So for me, I believe that you can have a coaching session, and the one thing that it will instantly do is provide you with the space to step back from an issue or experience that you might be having and put you in a different mindset, which immediately enables you to start looking at that situation more pragmatically and finding new choices and new solutions. And that's the beauty of kind of being in the coaching session itself. Of course, when you're outside of the coaching session, life continues, and unless you're the Dalai Lama, it's pretty difficult to be sort of mindful 24/7 of just the waves of emotion that you will feel sort of on a daily basis flowing sort of in and out of your body. I think that for me, the main thing that consistent coaching has done is just given me more and more awareness, I guess a bit like a muscle that you build, of how I'm reacting to things, how I have the ability to step outside of that reaction to make new choices, how I can be more aware of my own emotional currents. And it's just a bit like a muscle that you just continue to build through the ongoing conversation.
Yeah. And what do you notice that's changed in your life since you started and now?
I would say that my biggest foible has always been that I can be really hard on myself, and that has a habit of sprouting off lots of other kind of different issues and anxieties. And I feel that the regular coaching that I've had with you has been a really amazing way to just really turn the volume down on that, to really, I've noticed that there's more softness, there's more gentleness, there's more acceptance. And for me, I feel very, very pragmatically that it's not necessarily something that just goes away. Like you wake up one day and you're like, oh, woo, I'm a new person. But you just kind of learn like new ways of dealing with your emotional currents, and in doing so they just become less tidal, a bit more manageable, a bit more like a lake as opposed to a choppy sea. And I actually think a really good example is yesterday I was feeling awful for some reason. I really don't know why. I mean, probably something to do with my period, who knows? Sorry for any male listeners here. And I was just having the most outrageous thoughts about, you know, who I was, and, you know, being awful at my job and being an awful mother. But yesterday I really was able to just sit back and just go, whoa, this is crazy, all this stuff that's flying around in my head. And I even said to my husband yesterday, you know, I'm having a bit of a crazy day with all of this stuff that's going on, but I know it's not true, but it doesn't necessarily make it any more, it doesn't make it a nice experience. But I think that the fact that I was able to look at it pragmatically and talk about it as an experience, as just something horrible that was happening that day, as opposed to really being immersed in it and really believing everything that it was saying to me, is quite a big step forward.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thanks for sharing, because that's a great example of how we can just get stuck in our thoughts and believing them, and to actually be able to see that and know it's not true is amazing, especially when you're really in it.
Yeah.
And being in a coaching session can often be quite challenging, because you're faced with your fears or things you don't want to look at. How has it been challenging for you?
I wouldn't say actually that for me it's been challenging, because I feel like I'm really open to exploring and seeing what's going on for me. I'd say that maybe it's been, I wouldn't say that anything's come up where I've sort of felt threatened or, you know, how dare this be said to me or anything. But I definitely know that that can be an experience for some people, where it can feel quite confronting. But I think for me, it's just been more like very emotional, like some of the realizations that I've had. And I think there have been some real kind of aha moments, kind of just discovering why you're acting in certain ways. And I guess actually maybe making a bit of a back step on what I've just said, I guess the things that can be challenging, I mean, and this I think is a classic for a lot of people, is when you feel that maybe there's another person who's doing something to you and making you feel a certain way. And, you know, the constant lesson that you learn through the coaching is that no one has the power to do anything or make you feel anything. Like all of this actually comes from you and your own beliefs and your own narratives. And that can definitely be challenging sometimes. But it's also the ultimate way to really take ownership and responsibility for yourself and your feelings. And in that sense, it moves from being challenging to actually being quite empowering.
Yeah. And have you got any other examples of how it's impacted or changed the way that you experience life?
I think one good example would actually be my own coaching practice. I feel that when I first started my coaching with you, I felt very restricted about maybe going with my gut or giving someone what they needed. I felt like very kind of hemmed in by sort of formulaic coaching rules that I'd sort of learned on various courses that I'd been with. And I think ultimately, while there's some amazing knowledge there, it wasn't coming out authentically as who I was with the people that I worked with. And I feel that actually the biggest impact my coaching with you has been that my clients are now also getting a better coaching experience from me. And I think that, you know, I've got sort of a lot of loyal clients and people that sort of keep coming back. And I feel like that's strengthened through what I've learned through my coaching with you. So I think that's it, I guess, in terms of giving me the confidence to be authentic to who I am has really helped me in my career, actually. Yeah.
And what would you say to anyone who's thinking about having coaching, but they're not sure about whether it'll work for them, or they don't want to invest the money in it? What would you say?
It's a really interesting one, because I know that some people can have a real blocker sometimes about spending money on stuff like this, but for me it's just a no-brainer. I'm just like I mean, I just feel like, you know, there are so many lovely things you can do with your life, you know, so many nice restaurants to go to, and holidays and clothes and all of this kind of stuff, but it's also fleeting and meaningless and non-enjoyable if, like, the baseline of your life, your kind of 24/7, isn't fun. And I think I read a really interesting quote the other day about how people are, you know, in the wild, you're kind of hardwired to survive, you're not hardwired to be happy. And I feel like there's a lot of people out there who are just surviving really well. They're just, you know, doing their jobs and feeling stressed and having their relationships, and maybe things aren't great and maybe they don't feel that happy, but they are surviving. And I feel like if you actually want to elevate that to being happy, to enjoying this kind of one life that you have, and you do only have one life, then, you know, spending a chunk of change on having some great conversations that can just elevate your thinking and the experience that you have in the world, on a daily basis and in a way that impacts you through the rest of your life, is just a no-brainer for me. Like, yeah, I think it's the ultimate form of self-care, actually, far more valuable than a facial or a manicure or anything like that, although I do obviously quite like those things too.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
Obviously I agree with you, and
Yeah.
I know that I have, and some people do live in a fear that's almost, they live in it so much that they don't even know it.
Yeah.
And so when you really become aware of those things and what they are, and the fact that they're often not true, it can really open up your life to one that is actually could be successful but limited to being unlimited. So is there anything else you'd like to share before we go, about your experience?
Yes. I mean, so many sort of little things stick with me, but I guess the one that reverberates a lot is this constant idea that there is no past and there is no future. Getting lost in the entanglements of these things that you feel have happened before, or these things that you feel are going to happen, is just such a waste of energy. And I think that's been a really beautiful lesson for me.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, thanks very much, Tash. It's been a pleasure.
Cool.
Bye.